Alrighty, now I got my frames sort of halfway finished up here in terms of the overall profiling. Everything's done there. What I'm going to do next is texture the edges, and that's got to be done by hand with the Dremel tool. So on this iPro, not optional, but I don't have to have a mask necessarily. It's just time consuming. By the way, anytime you crack out the Dremel, in my opinion, is eye protection necessary. Dremel tools should be registered under the NFA as a destructive device. It really is one of those tools. I have been hurt more times by Dremel than almost any other tool in the shop. So take it for what it's worth. Safety tip, wear iPro when you got a Dremel. Okay, that's one side, and you can see it's got this nice textured finish to it, almost like an orange peel finish. It's a lot cleaner and a lot easier to do it this way. Just a top tip, if you're going to do this, like I said, make sure you use iPro. It's just a Carbide ball-end mill thing for the Dremel, and it works great. Makes a nice textured finish. I would not do this on the flats. But, you know, it's something to look at if you like this kind of thing. If you like an orange peel finish or something akin to that, this gives you a nice texture to it, and it looks really good. Ordinarily, I'd kind of do this more in my lap, but I'm trying to do it for the camera, so I'm doing it up on the desk. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and finish the second one here and do the whole thing again. Luckily, I don't have a titanium backspacer, otherwise I'd be texturing that one too. And then we're going to go ahead and start finishing everything. Alright everybody, so I've been polishing stuff for the past hour or two, getting this blade nice and pretty. You can also see that I've finished my frames. So now it's time to get everything cleaned up and get put together. This blade is a drop point blade, and what I had originally thought I was going to do, because you're probably going to hear some of my commentary in some of the other videos, was I thought I was going to do this as like an apocalyptic finish, and I just got to thinking, you know, it's been a really long time since I've done anything in teal, and I think there might be one Mark 6 in teal, and I don't even make the Mark 6s anymore, so that tells you how long it's been since I've done anything in teal. So I decided to go ahead and try this out, and I think this is going to look pretty good. This blade, as you can tell, is a mirror polished finish on the bevels and satin flats. Now, you're not going to see a whole lot of sheen right now because it's a little bit dirty. I got a lot of oil on there, but you can definitely tell it's very, very shiny. This is one of my favorite finishes. I just love the look of a good mirror polish. Most knife makers don't even offer this, so you know, for me, it's something that I can do that pretty much sets me apart from a lot of other makers. We're going to go ahead and do the two-tone on the screws, because I want those to match with the screws down here. I'm going to need a little bit of sandpaper here. To do this, pretty easy. You just have to have a drill, cordless drill, and a little bit of sandpaper. Let me go grab some real quick. Alrighty. So what you do to do this two-tone finish on here, these are Stephen Kelly's pivots, so I anodized this teal to match the frame. Again, I wanted to match the top of the screw to match the rest of the screws on the knife, which are going to be satin finish. So I'm going to take a piece of sandpaper here. I've chucked the screw into my drill, and going to use my fingers to follow the contour of the screw head, but you can see there it's removed all of the teal finish off of the top of the screw head and left the little recesses anodized. So it's a nice little tip here on how to actually do that two-tone anodized finish. If you're using Stephen Kelly's screws. Now I use sandpaper. You could use Scotch-Brite, but in my opinion, sandpaper being a little bit stiffer doesn't dip down into those little recesses where you have the color, and Scotch-Brite does, and so it can remove some of that color, which is not what we want. Otherwise, you know, here's our frame, and you'll see it's got a it's actually got an orange peel finish on it, which looks really good. That texture on the edge. Now, next thing I've got to do is actually finish the inside, which is going to be jeweled. You can see I went and already jeweled the recesses in there. You'll pretty much never see them, but again, it's something that's finished above and beyond what my competition does, so it gives me the warm fuzzies. I'm going to go ahead and finish this. This will be satin and jeweled as well. So we're going to go ahead and do that over here at the drill press. All right, folks, so I'm over here at the drill press. We're going to be using a jeweling bit to jewel the insides of our frames. You'll notice I've taken them up to about 1400 grit on the inside. The higher the grit that you've polished the surface that you're going to jewel, the better it's going to look. I'm going to be using this bit here. This is a Mk, that's Mike Echo November Charlie Kilo jeweling bit here. This comes from Midway, USA. They cost about $45 for the basic kit. They give you 3 rubber abrasives in here that have like an abrasive actually inside the rubber. A little brass collet to hold the rubber, which goes into this steel sleeve, which has a little set screw on the side here. Now this is a non-adjustable set screw. This is meant to basically give a little bit of pressure, but allow this to slip. It's like a little bit of a clutch or you know, torque limiter, so to speak. It allows it to slip in the case of, you know, the abrasive or whatnot getting hung up on something on your part. But these are fantastic. This is what I do all the jeweling with, and like this is the most asked question I get ever. Where do you get your jeweling bits? What are those jeweling bits? That's what it is. Mank jeweling bits. They work great, and that's what I've been using for years. I have plenty of them. I think I've probably gone through maybe 5 or 6 of them since I started making knives. You go through the abrasive fairly quickly. So if you're going to buy one, buy plenty of abrasive. Anyway, other tips. If you're going to jewel, make sure you place something down on your surface to keep your parts from scratching. My suggestion would be to run the jeweling bit as fast as you physically can on your drill press, and make sure your drill press is pretty good and stable. You don't want this wobbling around so much. I like to have a smaller benchtop drill press. That's probably my favorite thing about this little Grizzly here. It's not like a nice drill press or anything like that. I bought this when I was still in school, but this thing is fantastic for doing things like this, which is small precision work. Anyway, this is basically a jeweler's drill press, or at least capable of doing very similar things. I'm having it run basically at the maximum RPM, and I'm going to go around and cover 100% of the surface area that's raised up here. You want to make sure your part is good and dry. It doesn't have to be clean per se, like you don't have to get all the dust off of it, because the jeweling bit's going to create some dust too. But you do want to make sure it's dry, otherwise the water could cause your jeweling bit to slip, and then it won't create a nice even finish. Now on the inside of the part, it's not so critical that the jeweling be like 100%, you know, perfect. You know, you try to get it as good as you can. You want to have a little bit of an overlap between the swirls, but it doesn't have to be like lining up perfectly in rows and things like that, like if it were on the outside of the part. If it was on the outside of the part and you were looking directly at it, you definitely want to make sure that you're just completely anal about getting everything lined up properly. But for this, you can just kind of go around the part, and as long as you get 100% surface area coverage, you're pretty much good to go. And you'll see how pretty this looks. It is kind of a shame that This isn't on the outside of the part. It's a minor finishing detail at the end of the day, you know, because you're not really looking at the inside of the knife. But again, it's finished to a degree that's above what most of my competition is offering. So, you know, it's incumbent on me as a knife maker and a businessman to offer a better product, you know, to offer as good of a product as I possibly can, and this is part of that. You know, I have to make sure that I stay competitive, and you as a knife maker, if you're watching this and you're going to become a knife maker, or you're thinking about it, or heck, maybe you're already making knives, this is a good way to differentiate your product from the majority of the, my opinion, stupidly overbuilt stuff that's out there. But you can see how nice that looks. I mean, that's just real pretty, right? Like I said, this is going to be a minor detail when everything's all said and done. But it's going to look good. That little subtle hint of flash coming from the inside of the knife is going to look really nice, I think. I love the way the jeweling looks, and it's one of my favorite effects that I do. A lot of it's like I said, it's kind of more of an old school technique. You don't see a lot of the younger guys doing this. Because frankly, these jeweling bits are kind of an enigma, right? A lot of people don't know where to find them. And a lot of people don't want to bother to spend all the time to prep the surfaces and jewel everything. Frankly, it doesn't make money. Because a lot of guys are like, well, you know, I could sell something that's acid washed and stone washed and it's got a flame anodized finish on it, and they don't want to go and invest $500 in, you know, an anodizing setup and $100 in the bit, the jeweling bit, abrasives, and you know, another $50 in high grit sanding belts to take this up to the polish that it needs to be taken up to in order to make this look right prior to jeweling. But in my opinion, I think it makes the knife look a lot better. And it is really just classy looking. If you're trying to build a dress knife or something where it looks like, you know, you spent money on it, you spent the time and attention to jewel it, you know, it makes it look like a fine watch, in my opinion. There we go. Isn't that pretty? That just looks great. So when these are together, you're not going to see a whole lot of that jeweled finish in there, but it'll be just enough that you know somebody put a lot of time and attention into this knife. And I think that's going to make all the difference in the world to my customer. All right, let's go ahead and clean this up. All right, now let's go ahead and press in our ball bearing. I have a little bin here of ball bearing detents. You can kind of hear them. Then what we're going to do is take a special tool. This is a pair of pliers, and this has actually been in my possession and usage since the Mark 12s. How do you press a ball bearing into an integral frame lock? Good question. This has a little indentation milled into it on this this end of the plier. It actually holds the ball bearing, and I can take my magnetic Torx bit here, and normally what I'll do, actually no, I just dropped it. On the integrals I have to set it on there and stick it up into the frame, but on the non-integral knives this is kind of nice. I can just put the bearing onto my detent hole there. Take this, I don't want to scratch the frame, so I have a little bit of electrical tape on the other side. Cup it, get it into that little recess, just give it a good squeeze, and that sets the bearing depth. This is milled out to exactly the right depth for the bearing, and just allows me to squeeze them in just like that. Super easy to do. Now I take my lock bar and I bend it. Now on the Mark 8's got to be a little bit careful because the IO stop makes it impossible to bend it back in the case that you bend it too much in. So one of the reasons why I tell people not to modify my knives is, unfortunately, I've had that happen before in the Mark 7s. The Mark 7s, I have stopped been around since the Mark 7. People don't know that for whatever reason. I've been using it for years. But unfortunately, people have taken my Mark 7s apart, bent them further in because the detent needs to be stronger or whatever, and then, you know, lo and behold, the person sells it, and they get, you know, down the road to the next customer or next person who owns the knife, and they can't, you know, it's too stiff for them, and I can't just bend it back. I have to take it apart, heat it up with you know, a propane torch, completely redo the finish on the entire side of the frame, and it's just a complete pain in the butt for all involved. So yeah, don't do that. Anyway, carbide plating, got to do that next. So here we are in a different area of the shop. This is a Rocklinizer. Seriously old school piece of kit, this. Rocklin Industries, or whatever it is that makes these. These are cool little machines. It's a carbide plating thing. And it has super power, by the way. I have to unhook here so you can see this. The front of this thing is just hilarious. It's so 1950s, it's not even funny. Look, it is super power. And it's got a bunch of different knobs and whatnot, but frankly I haven't really messed with it too much. Gun receptacle, yeah. There's your Rocklinizer, made in the United States. Electronic carbide metal impregnator model 600. Yeah. So anyway, but what it is it's a carbidizer. It's not really actually a word, by the way, but it's what it does. It impregnates carbide into titanium. It's actually a molecular process, and for those of you guys who are unaware, you can actually pretty much pattern weld or spark weld titanium and carbide together. So what I'm going to do is take this gun here, which vibrates, and I'm going to put an electrical current through it, and it's going to actually arc over from this carbide end here, and it's going to actually weld onto there like a little miniature TIG welder. You do want to kind of put this can actually create sparks and some scarring, so you want to put it in an area that's never going to be seen, like in this case on the inside of the frame. Okay. And one of the things is it creates a little bit of heat on this side of the lock bar here, and it can actually cause the bearing to pop out, but no issues there. Got a little bit of carbide spillage, but it's not a bad thing. It's not going to hurt anything. All right, well, let's go ahead and assemble this puppy. Should be ready to go.